What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. We're right here in the Exiled Lands to show you the best weapons in 2025. I'm going to cover every single different type of weapon that there is and which ones are the best based off of damage, and that is it. I have picked some variations of weapons because there are weapons that have little idiosyncrasies to them, like the Predatory Blade, which only does damage with light attacks. So I've picked a variation of that as well. Without further ado, let's jump into the absolutely best weapons for Conan Exiles in the Exiled Lands for 2025. If you want the weapons for the Isle of Siptah, let's get 1,000 likes on this video and I'll post those next. We are going to start off with two-handed weapons. So let's go into the two-handed greatsword, and this is the Sword of Crom with 78 damage and 20 armor pen. Now the durability on this guy is super low, so you don't get to use it very much. So we have a couple of variations that we can go into. We have the Carnage here with 77 health damage and 24% armor pen. Now this does have a 5,000 durability. However, this particular weapon is going to give you 50% corruption when you hold it in your hand. So we have to go with yet a third variation of this weapon, which is going to be the Annihilator. Now it has 75 health damage and 33% armor penetration. With the durability of 3600, this is a very good weapon. It has no downside to using it, so this is the one that I recommend going after. If you want the Sword of Crom, you are going to head to the Unnamed City and you are going to kill all of these skeleton type bosses that are in the Unnamed City in hopes that this drops from their loot pool. Now Carnage and the Annihilator are both dropped in the Warmaker Sanctuary. You will have a chance to get Carnage from the final boss in Warmaker Sanctuary. For the Annihilator, there's a skeleton boss that drops the key to the Arena Champion's door, and you'll need to fight him in order to get a chance to loot the Annihilator from his corpse. Into two-handed axes, there's simply just one in this category on the Exiled Lands, and that happens to be the Scythe of Thag, coming in with health damage of 90 and durability of 2400. There are no other legendary two-handed axes that drop in the Exiled Lands. Your second best bet is going to be a Star Metal two-handed axe that you can craft yourself. And in order to get the Scythe of Thag, you are going to have to go to the wine cellar and defeat Thag and hope that he drops you this scythe. For two-handed spears, the best one is the Mordlin. It has 67 health damage and armor penetration of 9%. It has 4200 durability. This guy additionally can be dropped in the Warmaker Sanctuary. If you don't want to grab that out of the Warmaker Sanctuary, you can go for the Black Dragon Pike with a health damage of 65 and armor penetration of 7%. This guy has 1120 durability, and it can be found in any of the legendary chests that you use a skeleton key on. Down to bows, the absolute best is the Reach of the Red Mother with 34 health damage and 9% armor penetration, coming in with 1000 durability. This is dropped in a single place in the Exiled Lands. You've got it. It comes simply from the Red Mother in the Unnamed City. If you don't want to go after that one, you can go for the Durketo's Voice with health damage of 33 and 0 armor penetration. It does have 4400 durability. And this, again, is dropped in the Warmaker Sanctuary. Down to the daggers, the best daggers by far are the Daggers of Nameless Days with 46 health damage and 18% armor penetration. They have 3600 durability, and the Daggers of Nameless Days can be found in any of the chests that require a skeleton key. Although the shank may be easier to come by with 45 health damage and 18% armor penetration with a total of 1800 durability. These are dropped by the single skeleton lizard man in the unnamed city. Next up, we have the Black Claws. These are a legendary weapon that you can actually just pick up off a bench. They have health damage of 52 and armor penetration of 9%. They have 1800 total durability. They also say that they're acidic, although if you're not playing in PvP, acidic really doesn't do anything in a PvE scenario. What that stat actually does is when you attack an enemy, it reduces the durability of that enemy's armor. Then we have the Diseased Spike. Now these not only bleed, but they also cause disease, which is another dot damage. They have health damage of 46 and armor penetration of 9%, coming in with 1800 durability. And these can be found in the Warmaker Sanctuary when you defeat the Blood Defiler. Down to Katanas. Musashi's Black Blade remains the absolute best katana you can get, with health damage of 74 and armor penetration of 13%, a total of 2700 durability. Unfortunately, the only place to find Musashi's Black Blade now is from the chests that require a skeleton key. However, we have the Curved Slayer here, which does health damage of 71 and armor penetration of 13. You notice it says Executioner on there, which is a buff to this weapon that once you get an enemy to 10% of their total health, it will kill them instantly. It has durability of 2700. If you're looking to get your hands on the Curved Slayer, you need to kill the spider that is in the Dregs dungeon. Next on our list, we have the Berserker's Fist Blades. These guys have 52 health damage and 9% armor penetration with 1800 durability. Now this says that it has Vengeful. Vengeful is basically berserking, where as you lose health, your armor is increased as well as your damage. Now these could be considered daggers, but I put them in a dual wield category instead of daggers. I feel like it fits them much better. And going along with the dual wield category, we have the Hunger Blades. These also have disease, and they do health damage of 44 and armor penetration of 19%. And this one also has 1800 durability. Both of these weapons all come from the same boss in the Warmaker Sanctuary, the Blood Defiler. So if you're looking to run and put an agility build together with one of these three, you have a single target to go after in the Warmaker Sanctuary. Down to two-handed maces. In the top category here, we have Hanuman's Gata, and this guy has 96 health damage and 45% armor penetration. Its durability is 4800. Now you'll notice the weight on this is very heavy at 50 total weight. So this is really just a great weapon to give to a thrall and not to use yourself unless you're running an encumbrance build. And you get Hanuman's Gata from any of the legendary chests that you have to use a skeleton key on. And because of that, we have to have a second best, which is the Maelstrom at 79 health damage and 0 armor penetration, 4800 durability. The Maelstrom will drop in the unnamed city from most of the skeleton bosses that are in there, the same ones that you'd be farming for the Sword of Crom. Now before I move on, we have a couple of weapons that I have to talk about here that would go in these categories, but they are for very particular builds. The first is the Abyssal Maul, which would go along with the two-handed mace category. It has 85 health damage and 47% armor pen. However, it expires if you are not using it. So when you get a kill, the timer will increase, but if you are not killing enemies, it's just going to expire. Additionally, this weapon is going to give you corruption up to 50% of your health and stamina. We also have to mention the Abyssal Bow here. It does 33 health damage and 9% armor pen. Now, just like the Abyssal Maul, this also has an expiration timer, so you have to be using it to refill that timer. Additionally, it is going to give you corruption up to 50%. Now, the nice thing about the Abyssal Bow, if you decide to use it, is it does not require you to have any ammunition in your inventory. It is preloaded with infinite ammunition. The Abyssal Maul and the Abyssal Bow are both crafted through sorcery at the Chalk Circle. Moving over to our one-handed or offhand or thrown category, first and foremost, we have the Predatory Blade. Now, the Predatory Blade says it has health damage of 108 and it has armor penetration of 9%. It says it's predatory, and what that means is that you only do damage with light attacks. If you use a heavy attack, you simply do 1 health point of damage to your target. And it has a 2700 durability. Now, this is another drop from the Skeleton Lizard Man in the Unnamed City. So we have to look at the Balius. Now, this is a weapon that says it has corrupted. That does not mean that it gives you corruption. It actually means it applies corruption to the target that you're hitting. So that specific stat really only good for PvP, as the NPCs will not live long enough to notice the corruption. But it has health damage of 67 and armor penetration of 9% with a durability of 2700. And as you can see on the screen, it comes from the Warmaker Sanctuary. Next on the list is the Axe of the Lion with health damage of 103 and 0 armor penetration. The durability is 2700. You can see on this, it also says that it's predatory, so you'll only be doing full damage with light attacks. If you do heavy attacks, it will only do 1 damage. And this is a legendary that can be found in the legendary chests that require a skeleton key. So we've got a couple of other legendary axes here. The Glimmer Moon has 71 health damage and 0 armor penetration. It comes in with 2700 durability. Again, this can be found in any of the legendary chests with a skeleton key. The Glimmer Moon will also give you a light source when you have it equipped or when it's on your back. The Act of Violence, which arguably could be better than Glimmer Moon, has the same health damage as Glimmer Moon at 71, 0 armor penetration, and 2700 durability. However, it has the Executioner buff applied, which means when your target reaches 10% health, it will kill them instantly. It is dropped by the Fiend of Jill in Jill's Roost. Next on our list is the one-handed maces, and we have the Momentum here first, with health damage of 85 and armor penetration of 27%, coming in with 3300 durability. Now, there are a lot of places to get the Momentum. You can get it out of any of the legendary chests that require a skeleton key. There's also quite a few bosses in the Unnamed City that will drop this, and a handful of bosses in Warmaker Sanctuary that will drop this. So, the world's your oyster, go out and hunt, and you'll likely come across a Momentum. There really isn't a reason to have a second mace in this list, but I wanted to show you the difference between the Momentum and the Quake. The Quake is a legendary weapon that has 67 health damage and 23% armor pen. Its durability is 3300. Now, this is only farmed in the Unnamed City. And if you look at the Momentum at 85 health damage with 27% armor pen, and then the Quake, which is in second place with only 67 health damage and 27% armor pen, we have a scenario where either the Momentum is way too high of health damage, or all of the other maces are way too low on health damage, because the Quake comes in second place at almost 20 lower health damage. But let's move on to shields. Now shields, I don't think it really matters what the health damage is or the armor penetration is. Really what you want to be doing when looking at shields is see what active abilities it has and looking at durability. The health damage and armor penetration really aren't going to matter for your shield since your weapon overwrites the health damage and armor penetration. The first in our list is Black Brawler's Fury, and it has reactive bleed. So as someone hits your shield when you block, it's actually going to cause them to bleed. And that's why it's number 1 in the list, so that you can be applying damage while you're actually blocking. And there are a ton of places where you can get your hands on this shield. Not only is it in the legendary chests that require a skeleton key, but many of the enemies in the unnamed city also have a chance to drop this shield. Next on our list is the Akbatanan shield. This guy is on here because it's got tons of durability and a very low weight. 11,000 durability is quite a bit, especially if you buff that with a durability reinforcement kit. And you can find the Akbatanan shield in any of the legendary chests that require a skeleton key. Into throwing knives, there's really only one to look for the highest damage. That's going to be the Akbatanan throwing knife with 71 health damage and 0 armor penetration. These knives come from a single place in the Exiled Lands. You can get them by defeating the final boss in Skittering Cavern. We've come to our last weapon here today, which is the Riptide. This is an absolutely amazing weapon that you absolutely never want to use. But if you do have to use it, it's got some pretty hefty stats. It does health damage of 75 and armor penetration of 18%. It has a durability of 3,000. But the reason why you don't want to use it is when you're holding this weapon in your hand, it allows you to breathe underwater. This is a great thing to use as a tool to get around, say, the sunken city without having to worry about running out of breath. It comes from a singular boss in the unnamed city located at the aviary, and that is going to be the boss bat that spawns in that location. And they recently updated the game so that there is a 100% chance for that boss to drop a legendary item from its loot pool. So there you go, that's my list of best weapons for 2025. You guys let me know in the comment section below, did I miss any really spectacular weapons? And don't forget to whack that like button on your way out. Let's get this video to 1,000 likes and I'll bring you the best weapons for the Isle of Siptah. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't forget to whack the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content. And if you don't want to be out of whack, there's another video on the screen right now that you can click to support more of my content.